All right, guys, I just want to do a quick little follow-up video about the storyboarding activity that you're completing for the first draft of your digital narrative. I figured I'd do this little follow-up video more specifically to what I am expecting from you guys and sort of how I would go about in creating my own storyboard if I were you. I'm mainly doing this because the storyboard is what you need to be completing for your first draft of your digital narrative. So if you go to our Moodle, you can see that I've uploaded quite a few different sort of tools and tips for you when storyboarding. We have one storyboard template here that looks like this. And I think the storyboard template would probably be fine. It gives you, I think the way that this might be most helpful is because it gives you some space to draw out part of your scene, whatever you need to draw out, whether it be in stick figures or detailed or animated characters, whatever it might be, right? It gives you a little bit of space to draw it out. You can type in here, you can print this out, you can draw on it, write on it, whatever you need to do, as long as it's clear enough for your partner to understand, right? Remember that this storyboard is being turned into a peer review blog post for your partner. So they need to be able to understand your writing and understand your drawings. If they can't, this is something that they are going to critique as part of blog post number 4. So this works because it gives you a chance to sort of talk about the visuals, right? Think of the images not as images as pictures, but as visuals. So the visuals going on in the scene, and then some of the design elements of the scene, as well as whatever sort of audio or narration might be occurring in the scene. So if there's going to be music or sound effects, or if there's going to be a voiceover, if there's going to be just some text on the screen, whatever it may be, this gives you a place to kind of type these things out. This one is fine. I think it works, but I don't think it's the best example. If we go back to our Moodle page here, we have this example down here called Storyboard Example Love. And this is normally an activity we would do in class in groups. It gives you a little bit of practice in storyboarding. But at this point in the semester, we don't really have time to be conducting extra activities because I really want you focusing on your own work. But the storyboard example comes directly from our media production readings, which are right here. So if you've done our media production readings, you'll see that you get down to a part where they start talking about 3-column storyboarding, basically. They have it set up as commentary, video, and audio. In the commentary section is kind of the rationale for the scene, right? Why this scene exists, the purpose of the scene, right? So here's the superimposition is used for memory recall device. So to know that there's a memory being recalled, right? Here the cut indicates a different view of the character in the same continuous time sequence. The sort of rationale for the scene, why the scene exists. In the video section, they're mainly talking about the different camera angles or the camera shots or the camera movements that are taking place and what it is that they're focusing on, right? So superimpose, overcut of Bart, the face of a man killed as he describes the scene, right? Pan with Bart to the hall door, cut to the hall as he enters it, whatever it may be, right? So this kind of gives the audio or the visual direction of how you're putting your scene together with what camera angles, what camera shots, and what are they focusing on. And the audio part, in their sense, is more of the action that's going on. They have dialogue, and that's why it's called audio. And so some of you may be using dialogue in your digital narrative. I also have some examples of great dialogue in film and how it's great, as well as a practice dialogue exercise if you want to take a look at that in order to make your dialogue a little bit more natural and authentic. So this is saying audio because it's talking about the dialogue, right? Whatever Bart is saying versus whatever Susie's saying, whatever Bart's saying, whatever Fearless is saying, these sort of things, right? So they have it in that way. But those of you who aren't going to have dialogue, this is where you kind of explain the action of the scene, right? And so this comes directly from our media production readings. And this is why I would use this example, which is right here. Right, so this is the example, the storyboard love example that I have on our Moodle for you. So I've just kind of switched it up a little bit to make it in a little bit more of a logical manner, so to say. So I have it where the action of the scene is described first, and then we have the video controls, so the video instructions, right, the camera instructions. and then the commentary being the rationale for the scene or the purpose of the scene, why it exists, right? So I set this up as an example of love, right? That's just very basic, and this is something that we would do in class. So I basically set it up that the action, it first takes place, the first scene is in front of the university with students walking in. That's the first scene, that's the action in the scene. The camera angle that I'm going to be using is a TD, which is a tilt down from the sky establishing shot of the university. If you're unsure of what all of these abbreviations are, they are all right over here on our Moodle page under camera abbreviations. Once you go here, here it gives you an explanation for all of these things. We just use the abbreviations so that we can make our storyboards a little bit more concise, right? Make them a little bit shorter so they don't take up so much space. So ES is establishing shot, FS full shot, high shot, low shot. I'm going to make another video going over all of these later on, so you don't have to worry about memorizing them right now. But I'll give a little bit of video explaining and showing examples of all of these different things. But for the purpose of looking at our example, these are where all of the abbreviations are coming from. So let's go back to our storyboard example. So we're starting off with a university, right? NU, students walking in, a tilt down from the sky, establishing shot of the university. Why do we do this? Students walking into the university show that school is in session, and the tilt down establishing shot shows a setting of our scene. That is the purpose of this scene, right? We want to show that it takes place in Azerbaijan University. We have the students walking in so we can show that school is actually in session, right? Our next scene is a girl walking down the stairs in front of block 1. If you guys remember what block 1 and those stairs look like, feels like it's been forever, right? Holding books and listening to music with headphones in. We start with a front follow close up of the girl's face. What current emotion does she exhibit? We kind of monitoring her emotions. Then we cut to a low shot or a long shot of the stairs as the girl walks down them and exits right. Why do we have this shot? The close-up of the girl's face shows her as a character, her current emotion, and it puts an emphasis on the headphones. The long shot established that she is a student, holding books, and walking to class. So now we know that the headphones and the books are going to be an important part of the story based off of the camera angles and the camera shots that we've chosen, right? So this is how it goes through, right? The girl walks through the atrium towards her class. We have a middle shot follow left of the girl walking, right? This shows the action of walking. It shows the headphones cable swinging, her emotion. She's still holding the books. The headphones of the books are the key elements of the story, so they need to be emphasized. We know that now, right? Then we cut to a different scene, right? A boy hanging out with friends and laughing. He says goodbye with a handshake. We have a medium 5 shot of the group of boys shot at a low angle, right? The medium shot is used to see the faces, gestures, and emotions of the boys. The low angle is used to help fill the screen and show them as loud, obnoxious, and intimidating. We all know what Kazakh boys do in the atrium. They yell, they jump, they hug each other, they're trying to punch each other and touch each other a lot. And so it shows us this loud, obnoxious, and intimidating group of Kazakh boys, right? Then the boy walks to class with nothing in his hands, just a backpack. We have a medium shot follow right of the boy walking and smiling. This is used in order to stay consistent and show that our characters are walking towards each other. The boy's backpack shows that he is also a student, right? So we have these key important parts of our scene. So what we've done now is we've set up the beginning of a scene of a girl walking one way, a boy walking the opposite way, and eventually going to meet and fall in love at some point, right? For some reason. So this is me building my storyboard. This is me setting up my entire movie. This is me setting up basically the introduction to my story, right? From here on out, then I would start with the rising action, and I would go on and keep continuing each of these scenes and each of these lines to put together my rising action, to put together my climax, to put together my falling action and my resolution, right? This is the type of storyboard I would use because I think it gives me the amount of freedom to clearly stress the ideas that I want being portrayed in my video, the action. It clearly gives my audience an idea of how this video is going to be shot, right? What sort of camera angles, camera shots, and camera movements are going to be used. And it gives an explanation of why all of these scenes are important to my movie, right? Every scene that you shoot needs to have a purpose for your digital narrative. It needs to have some sort of purpose in your story, right? It needs to give us your audience, some sort of information, some sort of explanation of something that's happening in your story. If it doesn't have a purpose, then it probably doesn't need to belong in your digital narrative. So this forces you to sort of think about, why am I having this scene in this place, right? This is what I would use as a storyboard example. I think this is the most detailed one to use. I think it gives you the most freedom to type and to write about as much as you need. And it comes straight from our readings. So you're kind of using our readings as you are working through this this activity, right? This storyboarding activity. Obviously, this isn't the one and only way to do a storyboard. You can use the previous example I showed you. You can use this example that I showed you, or if you feel like you're more of a visual thinker, rather than typing out these scenes, you may want to draw them, right? And so that's fine. That's totally fine too, is in creating a comic strip style where you have your different panels, and within each of the panels, you have a quick sort of sketch of what you think is going to be happening in that scene, and some notes around it to explain why it exists, or what sort of angles are going to be taken, or what sort of camera techniques are going to be using within that scene, right? As well as maybe dialogue or action or something like that. So you can do it that way as well. You can also maybe, if you feel the urge to be a little bit more creative, you could do a video storyboard, I think. You could be showing some visuals that you have created on your computer or on your iPad or your iPhone or whatever it might be, right? Showing some sort of visuals of what you think your story is going to look like, while also talking through your story and explaining some of the dialogue and explaining some of the camera angles and camera shots and things like that. So there's lots of different ways you can go about in storyboarding. The thing you have to remember is that it needs to be clear enough and understandable enough for your peer to take your storyboard and create a peer review from it, right? It also needs to be visual enough that your peer can effectively design their blog post to get a good grade based off of your digital, or based off of your storyboard for your digital narrative. So as long as you can meet the requirements of it being visual enough and clear enough to be a quality blog post number 4, then I think that storyboard will probably work. If you have other sort of questions about it, I have this last sort of resource for you, tips for drafting a narrative and a storyboard. And it basically looks like this. So it kind of gives you some advice on how to put together a script, right, of your story. If you need to narrate your story, if you need to talk through the whole thing, this is sort of how to put it together. Try to limit it to 500 words. That's about 2 to 5 minutes of a story. But don't always rely on voice, right? Oh, let the visuals and the sounds carry the story as well. You don't always need to be talking for 2 to 5 minutes straight. Let the visuals do the work for you. Same thing with pacing. Slow down, speed up, use intonation, be loud, be quiet, stop, pause, make it exciting, make it dramatic, right? Do things like this for your script. Same thing with your storyboarding, a little bit of helpful tips, and then just finalizing everything, putting it all together. So take a look at that, see if that's helpful at all. Otherwise, if you have questions about your storyboard, you can always email me or send me a message, and I will approve or disapprove the ideas that you have for your storyboard. So that's about all I really wanted to talk about today. Make sure that you're looking at our Moodle. I'm putting up new things all the time to help you start creating your digital narrative.